Anyone that was raised by a boomer and now has children, please answer me this. I don't know about y'all, but I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house, my aunt's house, whatever, so that my parents could go out. They'd dump us off at grandma's and go to Vegas for the weekend. But now that I have children, it's like pulling teeth just to get them to watch their own grandchildren for 2 hours so I can run some errands. Night out? What's a night out? Because I don't get that. A weekend away? Get real. And then you bring this shit up to them and they're like, oh, I've done my duty. I've done my duty. You chose this life. So did you. And you had help. Where's my fucking village? Why is it like this? Like, I cannot be the only one. Somebody please tell me that I'm not alone in this. Anyone that was raised by a boomer and now has children, please.
No, you're not alone. You're far from alone. My children are 3 of 16 grandchildren that my parents don't spend time with. My boys are the only 3 grandkids that live in the same city. And even when my ex-husband went to rehab and I was starting a brand new job with 3 kids, one of them was a baby, I couldn't get them to help me. My ex-husband was very abusive. He was a drug addict and put us through a lot for 10 years. And my parents did what they could to help me. But, babysit? Nah. It's okay. My kids are better off. It's been 6 months since I've talked to my parents, and they have made no attempt at talking to my children except to say, why isn't she talking to us? No.
Now that I have children, it's like pulling teeth just to get them to watch their...
I think the real reason that baby boomers are starting to treat grandchildren like novelty items is because that's what they are. They're rare now. Millennials aren't popping out as many kids as baby boomers did. My grandparents' house had 15 cousins, 15 grandchildren running around for 20 years. Half of those cousins have one. One of them has 3. That's it. Out of all of us. How many millennials even live within babysitting distance anymore? A lot of us ran away. I think the baby boomer grandparents that have 5, 10 grandchildren running around them all the time are great grandparents. I think the ones that have 1, 2, maybe 3 that they see sporadically every once in a while, they just adapted. And it's not the same as it was. I don't know if this is true, but I also think we're more responsible parents than baby boomers were. I think it was much more acceptable back then to go, hey, can you watch the kids? I'm going out for a 3-day bender. Meanwhile, we're teaching mindfulness. Like, what the fuck?
Anyone that was raised by a boomer and now has children, please answer me this.
All right, unpopular opinion time. Here's your answer, and you're probably not going to like it. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and bet that you probably have multiple kids with multiple baby daddies. I get this from the fact that your parents said you made these decisions, now you get to live with them. So obviously, as an angry single mother who takes zero responsibility for her own actions, it's only natural that you would blame other people for your life issues. And I just find it funny that you want to blame your parents for not wanting to spend time with your kids when your parents obviously didn't want to spend time with you in the first place because, like you said, they used to pawn you off on their family members just to get away from you. But yes, go ahead and blame it on the fact that you just need to run some errands. It's 2022. What errand can't you run with a kid? Why not just tell the truth? You want a girls' night to go get drunk with your friends. You talk about this in your other video about having a bar with an attached daycare. Take responsibility for your own actions. Stop blaming your parents for not wanting to hang out with your crotch goblins.
Anyone that was raised by a boomer and now has children, please answer me this.
Hi, I definitely was raised by 2 boomers. One was born in 1943 and the other one was born in 1952. So yeah, they're old. I am 35 and I have 3 kids. And my parents are probably the best grandparents that I know. They help me with everything. They take my kids whenever I want, except when they're snowbirding in Arizona, which is now. But as soon as they're back, they will be hands-on with that guy. Yeah, there's a lot of my friends, though, they don't get help, and their parents are rude to them and tell them that they're not going to help them or whatever, but that's because they chose to have kids with crappy people and be single moms. And my friends' parents are rude. But all my cousins' parents and stuff, they help out, too. It must be a Jewish thing. Like, Jewish parents believe in the village. Convert.
whatever so that my parents could go out. They'd dump us off at grandma's and
Yep. While my mom is not a boomer, she's at the very beginning of Gen X, like towards the end of boomer. Same situation. She could not wait for me to have a kid to be a grandma. And there was one opportunity once where I needed to see if she could watch my kid for 1 hour only. It was in between me going to work and my husband coming home. So when I called her and asked her, her response was, "Why do you only call me when you need something?" You're my mom? And really, that's not the only reason I would call her. Like, I hardly ever asked her for anything because that's usually was her response. So yeah, thanks to that lovely answer she gave me, she's never watched my kid ever. And now we're going on 2 years of not speaking. So yeah, watch what you say to your kids.
anyone who was raised by a boomer and now has children, you're going to want to watch this video. If you haven't seen my previous video about boomer grandparents, click the comment and you can go see the video. This point right here. You know, I think the point really went over a lot of people's heads, so I would like to reiterate the point. The point is that my parents had a wealth of help from their parents, their siblings, etc. Whereas I get jack shit. I am not sitting here saying I am entitled to that. I'm saying that they got a wealth of help and are willing to give absolutely nada. To clarify, they are retired and have been retired. They don't have busy work schedules and they're not these old decrepit people. Yes, they're older, but they're not decrepit. They are perfectly capable of watching an 11-year-old child. For those of you saying I'm not old enough to have boomer parents, while I appreciate the compliment, I am 32 and my parents were born in 1955. I know what a boomer is. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule, but if you take a gander through these comments of this video, it really just proves that my theory is completely correct. And this is something that I've been talking about for years based off of other people's experiences and explanations of what's going on in their lives with their boomer parents. Some people even brought up this is probably a white person problem, which I think is correct because a lot of Hispanic people in my comments mention how supportive their families are. And I do believe that to be true, obviously with exceptions. What I am complaining about is that I grew up in a village and I had all these wonderful memories with my grandparents, my aunts, and my uncles, spending all this time with them. Yeah, my parents took us on trips and stuff too, but I'm pointing out that they had all kinds of help to go and do things on their own without any kids, go on date nights, whatever. And they had free, good help from their family. But when I ask for it, I'm guilt-tripped. And even though I have all these memories from my childhood spending all this time with other family members, you know what they tell me? The same shit that a lot of the boomers in these comments are telling me. Oh, I never had any help. Oh, you didn't spend that much time over there. I don't know what you're talking about. They just straight gaslight me about it and act like they had it so fucking hard. But yet you guys are calling me entitled. See, I no longer expect anything from them, and I never did expect anything. I just hoped that they would want to spend that time with their grandkids. And I'm allowed to complain about the fact that they're shitty human beings. And just because some of you had it hard doesn't mean the rest of us should have it hard. I'm saying that we as parents need that village. We need support. We need time away. For our health, our happiness, our sanity, for God's sake. Parents these days are so goddamn isolated, and a lot of it is because of my theory and this right here. Our parents left us alone or with babysitters that were barely old enough to wipe their own ass. We'd catch a charge if we did that. Just saying.
So I just watched the video on how baby boomers are bad grandparents. Yeah, totally. I'm lucky if I get one night a month where every single one of my kids are gone. 30 years old, 3 little boys. You know, if anybody knows this, parents need a mental break. We need something to kind of get away. When I was growing up, I was at my grandparents' almost every damn weekend. Every damn weekend, if not almost every damn weekend. My mom and dad had more of a support system than they even knew because they were able to get away if they wanted to. They were able to drop me off. You know, boomers are just really entitled. They feel like, oh, I need the night out. I did this, I did that. You know, their grandchildren have never been put as a priority. And I don't know. I agree with everything that's floating around TikToks. Boomers are horrible grandparents. You know, so shout out to the millennial parents out there who are getting up every day and getting it done all by themselves. You are the heroes and you are the beasts.
Anyone that was raised by a boomer and now has children, please answer me this. I don't know.
This is one of those. The answer is going to vary very much on an individual basis. My parents were divorced. My mom was a narcissistic alcoholic. My dad was different. He was involved and cared. Now, my mom, I wouldn't have even let her watch my kids alone. No way in hell. Hell no. Would not happen in a million years. She was abusive and couldn't be trusted. Now, my dad, he helped me babysit my oldest a lot when I was working and still at home, which was totally fine. But then things just kind of changed with him. I think he hit a mental breakdown that he never got addressed, which is a shame. But one day he decided he was done working, quit his job, and never picked up another job again. And at that point, I'm just confused, probably, because he was just not acting like the person who raised me growing up. But not far after that, I met my husband, got married, moved out. And this is where him being the boomer parent started to kind of not be quite as well as the grandparent. Because with him refusing to work, he thought my husband and I would have extra space for him to live in. So he would have been involved more with my kids, but he was going to use me in the process to be around. And I wasn't going to have that. Not by family, not by anybody. But my existence is not to be used by everybody. Not my dad as much as I love him. And I absolutely was not going to have it by my mom. So yeah, I'd say as grandparents, not the greatest. There was some good from my dad. There was no good from my mom.
Anyone that was raised by a boomer and now has children, please answer me this.
This is true. My grandmother used to take me to do all different kinds of things. She would take me out to dinner. I would come over for sleepovers. We would go see movies. She would take me to doll shows. We would go to theme parks. She was always doing something fun with me. And my oldest kid is 10, and they have never had a sleepover at my parents' house. My parents didn't take us out to dinner, so I know they're not going to take my kids out to dinner. But they've never, ever asked to take them anywhere or to do anything with them, and I just don't understand. They won't babysit, nothing.
Anyone that was raised by a boomer and now has children, please answer me this.
So my mom is 68. I'm 28. Technically raised by a boomer. Growing up, we were looked after by some people, you know, like now and then. But it was only because my parents had to work. So both my parents worked. So we'd have like a childminder for after school and sometimes before school. This person happened to be a very, very close family friend. Other than that, we didn't go anywhere else. My grandparents couldn't look after me because they were really old. My mom had me when she was nearly 40. She pretty much was 40. My sister's 21 years older than me, so you can kind of get the picture. Though I did go to my sister quite a bit as well. But what I will say is that my mom will have my kids whenever. She's had every single one, like whatever amount of children I've had. She's had those children while I've gone to hospital and given birth. So I think my mom has done the complete opposite. Might be an age thing. Might just be complete, you know, fluke. I don't know.
Anyone that was raised by a boomer and now has children, please answer me this.
Steaming hot take on this. Those boomers that pawn their kids off on, you know, their parents and aunts, uncles. Yeah, you can go to your friend's house for a week during the summer. The reason that kids were out from sunup until the streetlights came on. Kids that had no supervision. Kids that were just off doing their own thing all the time. They didn't want kids. They didn't want kids. But society expected them to have them. And also, there is no way in hell you could admit you didn't want kids because you were supposed to. You're going to change your mind, stuff like that. So they had kids. And then they're like, I didn't want these kids. I don't want them around. So, hey, mom, dad, come watch your grandkids. Hey, go to your fun aunt's house. Hey, yeah, just go be somewhere else. Literally, my husband's mother locked them out of the house all summer. Locked them out from sunup till sundown. didn't want kids. My parents were the same way. They pawned us off to our grandparents for like a week in the summer. They didn't want us. So then we grow up, we have our own kids, and we're like, hey, we spent like weeks at grandma's house. We went to aunts and uncle's house. We went and spent like all this time off by ourselves. Surely our parents will watch them for a day or two. No, they won't. They didn't want you. They don't want to watch your kids either. They don't like kids. They don't want to be around kids, and they were forced to have them. Which is why if you don't have children, sterilization should absolutely be an option for you, and also abortion.
Pulling teeth just to get them to watch their own grandchildren.
So this TikTok caught my attention, mainly because I have the opposite situation going on. I actually have very involved parents and in-laws in my kids' lives. But this really got me thinking about a statistic that I know. It is clear there are a lot of grandparents raising their grandchildren. I know plenty of families where it's just common, where it's the grandparent is the primary caregiver of the children. So I have so much sympathy for you because you do not have a strong support system that you can just call on family, that they want to see your kids, they want to be involved in your kids' lives. I could not imagine what that's like. But I don't think that's a generalized statement. I think that it's okay to assume that other grandparents want to be involved in their kids' lives, and they're very thankful that the mom and dad are the ones taking care of the kids.
Okay, so this is going to be my absolute last video on this topic, but I really wanted to touch on this. When my parents would drop us off at our grandparents and then do things like go to Vegas for the weekend, me and my sibling would be like, well, why don't we get to go? You know, of course we wanted to go do the things. And their response would be something along the lines of, because we're adults, we want to go do adult things with just adults, and when it's your time, you will be able to do that. My parents would insinuate all the time that when we were adults, and especially when we had kids, that we would also have the same privileges that they had. So again, like, this is not some entitlement thing. And honestly, I didn't expect them to do this from the get-go. My issue is that they had this, they expected this from their parents, and they're not willing to do the same for their kids. And they're incredibly dismissive, and that's what bothers me. This "it's your problem, but it was never mine" mentality. That's what gets me.
Big dog status, I'm a big dog, bitch.